Thank you. Wonderful. So, good morning and thank you to everyone. Welcome. A special welcome to our two guest authors, Kathy Esquivel and Mia authors, both hailing from Belize City, right? And all the students of the Creative Nonfiction class, colleagues at UB, and other writing colleagues from the Belizean Writers Guild. I anticipate a few of them might be joining us. And we a special this is the creative nonfiction writing class at the University of Belize, and it is one of the three creative writing courses that we now have at UB as of 2018. And I see my colleague Obaldo Merguera in the meeting, who was one of the chairs presiding over the revision of our associate and bachelor's in English program at UB, English and English Education, and led the charge to include three creative writing courses in our program offerings. And so in addition to this creative nonfiction writing class, we have a poetry writing class that we offer at the associate level, and a fiction writing class that we offer along with this CNF class at the bachelor's level. And as most UB, or I assume all UB courses go, these courses are available to non-UB students who can enroll as transient students. So if you know people who wish to get some formal orientation to creative writing, let them know that that is available through UB registration. Good. So since I sent you all some background information, I gave you a bit of homework to do some reading up on our two guest authors. I'm not going to read any detailed bio, but just briefly, starting with Kathy. Most of you know Kathy Esquivel as our former First Lady. She moved to Belize in 1960 and served as a math teacher for many years. And she's also a founding member of the Mental Health Association of Belize. And as all of you know, she is the author of Benji, as well as previously or formerly Under the Shade. Nia Authors was born, raised, and has lived in Belize City all her 25 years. She has a passion not only for writing, but also for encouraging other Belizean writers in their journey. She is the author of more than 80 interracial romance novels, including the Marriage Repair series that she co-authors with her father. Awesome. And now we will start with Kathy, who will be sharing with us about her upcoming publications, plural, and parts of her journey in becoming a published author. She has prepared a presentation for us, and she will be happy to answer questions either during or after. Kathy?
Thank you, Ivory. I suppose, well, I first of all want to thank Ivory for inviting me. I hope I have something useful to add. Ivory has been very important to me in my journey. I really want to applaud the way she shares what she has with everyone else. So to get right into it, I suppose I wanted to talk about the journey, and I've been on the journey longer than most of you because I'm older than most of you. So I don't think I've necessarily got any further along, but I've been on the road a long while. And of course, I'm sure you all recognize that part of the journey is self-doubt. And then you have to say, well, do I have anything to say that anyone else wants to listen to? And once you've started on the journey, you usually think, is it really worth continuing, or is this really not worth doing? But if you do continue, what do you do when you think you've reached the end? And the part that most of us are not very good at, I think, is publicity. How do I tell other people where I am and what I've done? So, starting with self doubt, it's not actually a terrible thing because, I mean, sometimes what you write isn't worth sharing. So, it's useful to look at what you're doing. And if you enjoy doing it because you love to do it and you find it helps you, then that's fine. But you really need to look at what you're doing and say, is it really worth sharing this with anyone else? And very often it is. But it can also be a stumbling block that either prevents you from continuing or just prevents you from sharing. So, what do you do with self doubt? Because it's very hard to judge yourself. Well, before you get to that, you have to, and you're on that journey, you have to say, who am I trying to talk to? What's my audience? What age group am I looking to reach? Is there a market? Because maybe what you have to say is really important, it's really good, but there's not really a market for it. What does that mean? Well, unfortunately, although Belizeans love words, they don't tend to love written words. And very often, the people who are reading are the people who are forced to read. In other words, students. Um, and if you're reaching students, you have to look at what's age appropriate content, both in content and in language. So that's one of the things that you have to consider. It does kind of compromise your voice if that's one of your thoughts, but maybe it's worth doing if you can reach more people. Language. What language are you going to use? If any of you write in Spanish, then you have to be aware that probably although your verbal Spanish is good, your written you've never done written Spanish, so you might need help if you're writing in Spanish because all your learning has been in English language. Now, if you're writing in English or Creole, well, if it's about Belize, are you going to use Creole in your work? And if you are going to use Creole, what spelling are you going to use? And again, you have to think, although people speak and understand Creole, most people in Belize don't read Creole, again, because it's not part of the schooling. Do you want to reach people outside of Belize? If you do, then you might want to use non-standard English rather than Creole. You have writers like Salman Rushdie who are brilliant at writing in such a way that you can hear it being said, but you can read it whether you speak the language or not. So those are all things you have to consider. So having considered all that, you've started, you've got something, you've got a few chapters, and you read it and you think, yeah, is it really worth continuing? Because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of dedication. So you have to ask yourself, well, if I had this, would I enjoy reading it? And then you have to find someone you trust to give you an honest opinion. And that's not easy. For instance, you wouldn't want to necessarily ask your significant other because that significant other would feel that if they give you an honest assessment, it might ruin your relationship or whatever. And so it is difficult. Now, for instance, I asked my brother, I have a brother who, if you look it up, he had a very successful book launched called The Dweller's Guide to the Planet. It's nonfiction. It ranks all the countries in the world as to which is the best one to live in. Belize did not make first place, I have to tell you. And it's really amusing, but then very full of facts as well. And I know that he's someone who reads, and so he gave me a really good opinion. And he gave me a lot of very positive feedback. Very often the feedback is, take out a whole lot of what you've put in. It's not relevant. It masks your story. So I think that's important, to find someone you trust to give you an honest opinion. And you have to, I must say, once Kubola accepted Benji, Ivory is one of the people who read the book, and she gave me some wonderful feedback, and that was very useful. Now, one of the feedback she gave me is it would really help to get a professional editor, and she put me in touch with a professional editor, Miss Johanna Hillhouse. And you have to pay for professional editing, but I found it made a huge difference. Miss Hillhouse went through line by line, page by page, and she caught out inconsistencies, but more importantly, she suggested different approaches. And so if you can, it really is useful to get a professional editor. And then you got all of that. What do you do about publication? Now, the thing is, getting published is difficult, not only in Belize, but everywhere, because publishers have a lot of choice. A lot of people want them to publish, and they have to think about their bottom line. They're a big business. Will they be able, even if they think it's wonderful, they have to think about whether they'll be able to sell it. So it is difficult. Why go ahead? Well, because a professional publication gives you a kind of validation, and it does also provide publicity and marketing. Having gotten one book professionally published makes it easier then to go ahead with the route of self-publishing, because you already have some validation. I am currently using Kindle Create, which my brother told me about. It's a fantastic free service, and it helps you set up everything in a way that's ready for publication. And they will even print books for you, because actually publishing in hard copy is very expensive. So Kindle Create is definitely worth using. However you decide to do it, it's really good to have a public launch if you can, and have the books available. So that's something you need to consider, and you might need help to do that with someone that knows how to do that kind of thing. Well, I have a book called Under the Shade. It's on Kindle. I wrote it in the late 70s, and it was published by a printer, but it wasn't a known publishing house. I had an entry in Memories, Dreams, and Nightmares, a book of short stories called The Scent of Jasmine. And I recently published Benji. And it's available in hard and Kindle versions. And I'm very, very appreciative of all Kubola did to help me. They did a lot of reading. They have managed everything. Of course, it does mean that there's no profit. You don't, if you write because you write, not because you think you're going to actually be able to live by doing it. But I'm very appreciative of Kubola. What do I have? Well, in June, hoping to launch Still Waters, which is a biography and memoir of my husband and myself. My daughter is just setting it up in Kindle Create, and as soon as it's all ready, we're going to do a proper launch, and I do have a professional that will help me with the launch. I have a book of historical tales, and that's geared towards high school students. And basically, it's a tale throughout Belizean history of different periods in the history, and each one features a different ethnic group. So you have a story about emancipation, you have a story about the East Indian indentured servants, you have a story about the Mennonites, and each one is told, you have a story about the War of the Castes. Each one is told from the perspective of a teenager. I'm not sure if I'll do that by Kindle Create or actually a publication. I've written quite a few plays, some of which have been produced. Such Good Children, Can't Walk Down the Plantation, and then I have several that I've written but haven't yet been produced, and I'm thinking that I will probably try and publish all of these. And that's where I stand, and I thank you very much for your attention, and if anyone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Questions? Comments?
Hi.
Hi,
Well,
Jane.
thank you very much for explaining that, Miss Esquivel. And am I saying your last name correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, you say it,
And
it's
I
okay.
really like, especially how you elaborated that when you are writing, you have to cater to an audience, especially in everything that you do, because you have those are the people who are going to be reading your book, and if it doesn't fit the actual audience that you have written it for, then like your book won't really serve the actual purpose, I would say, then, because well, yeah, that's what I really liked how you explained, and you also gave some tips on what you should do, especially when writing for your audience. So thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else has a question for Kathy? I have a question. So your upcoming memoir, you said memoir slash bio
Yeah.
that you quote.
Yeah, how
Okay.
it's written is each chapter there will be a biography of Manuel, but then there'll be a short memoir of what I was doing while he was doing whatever is in that chapter.
Okay. So who is the author? Is it you who's the author writing about your husband? You're the author, the
But
sole
obviously
author.
I interviewed him
Uh-huh.
for his part.
Okay.
So we sat down. I tried to do a recording. I bought a little recording machine, but I didn't find that I didn't find that useful. But because I have easy access,
Uh-huh.
I just would ask questions and write notes. And then when I'd written a part, I would read it back to him to see if it fitted what he was trying to say. So
Good. Good, very good. And research. What kinds of research went into the book?
okay, well,
Would you say?
obviously, I tried to research his part in terms of looking back at documents that would back up whatever it was. But there's a lot of information. Well, he had a lot of information, but there's also a lot of information available because it's public information. But yes, and then I don't know about you, but I was telling Ivory, I have a disease called red penitis. Whenever I read something, I keep editing and editing and editing, and at some point you have to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone famously said that a piece of writing is never done, it is merely abandoned. You gotta turn it in. Right?
Edit, but there has to be an end to it. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. And I know that some in the meeting have read Benji, probably studied or are studying it in a class. And so I was wondering if anybody wants to ask anything about Benji, or should I?
I'd be happy to answer.
Me, please.
Yeah.
Hi, Miss Esquivel. I was absolutely blown away by Benji. And I know that this story was based on a true story because you had a brother-in-law who suffered from a similar mental illness. And so I was wondering, character development to me is something that always interests me. I always feel so connected to the characters. And so I was just considering and wondering how you were able to navigate through piecing through what actually happened and in creating a character like Benji. I don't know if that question makes sense.
It does. But I think whenever we write, our characters are to some extent based on people we know. Now, as I say in the book, my brother-in-law was never involved with drugs or the drug trade, but his characteristics, the way he behaved, I mean, whenever I would say, Billy, because his name was Billy, Billy, you need to take a bath. No, cat, the doctor will tell me. And so that was him. And so what I wanted to bring out is that, well, especially in that case, we tend to treat people who are mentally ill as if they're somehow aliens from another planet. And in some ways, with some illnesses, they really are. It's hard to get inside them. But I wanted to bring out that everyone is a person. Everyone has a life. And so that's what I was trying to reach for. And he was a very special person, very annoying at times, but a very special person. And I think knowing him made people better. And he deserved to be treated. What was really touching for his funeral, the people that came out for his funeral, the librarians, because he loved to read, the librarians came out, the people he ran errands for. And it was very touching that other people saw the humanity in him. And I think it's not only him, I think all characters, even people we don't like I tried to bring out with Junior, there's a humanity within them. Even if we really don't like them, we have to try and reach for that humanity. But thank you for the encouragement.
Wonderful. Great question, Agatha. Thank you. Anyone else about Benji or anything at all?
Hello, good morning, Mrs. Esquivel and everyone else. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Rashid.
Okay. I didn't really have a, well, I guess it might turn into a question, but I love that you mentioned that not everything is worth sharing. That's really interesting to me. And too, you touched on the matter of illiteracy. You know, some people just, they can read, but they just don't like reading. And I love that you mentioned that because as a teacher, specifically an English and a literature teacher, it's a struggle really trying to get these students to read these books, especially with online teaching right now. We're not there face to face, so that dynamic is missing. And so I was wondering, when you write, I know you mentioned that when you write, there's some questions that you kind of go through to decide, whether this is something I want to share or not. So when you write, how do you determine what scenes or details you want to include? I mean, are there moments where you're like, oh, they're gonna love this? I mean, what's the writing process like for you?
Well, I don't know, but I find stories are almost living things that you are discovering rather than creating. As you write, I don't know, you think, and some of it is conscious, but a lot of it is just trying to find the story that's there. That might not be the same for everyone, and that is where a good editor comes in, because a good editor will tell you, yeah, this is interesting stuff, but it really doesn't belong here. People don't want to hear about how television started in Belize, even though what you've put in there is really interesting if that's what you're looking at, but it detracts from the story. I just give that as an example. So that's where I think a good editor can help you. Not that what you've written is necessarily bad, but it detracts from your main story. And so either a good editor or a good reader or someone that will tell you the truth. And that's the hardest thing, finding someone who will tell you the truth. But you have to be willing to listen to the truth as well. You have to be willing to hear good advice.
Good, very good, excellent. And Kathy, what has been the response, or how would you characterize the reception of Benji, both in terms of readership's response and business wise?
Well, I think I don't have anything to do with the sales. All I do is get a check at the end of the year. I think we make about $2 a book. But the proceeds for Benji actually go to the Welcome Resource Center. So the first year they got a check for $1,000, but this year they only got a check for a couple hundred. I think, again, COVID had, because a lot of the books I think are sold to tourists, and that's why it doesn't have Creole. It has non-standard English, because I wanted to reach out to people who would not be able, so even it's not even Creole written in English. It's non-standard English to give you a flavor, but not to make it incomprehensible. So I think with the decline of the tourism industry, that's really had an effect. I have really been, to use Agatha's words, blown away by the response. What has been really, really touching is people reaching out to me who have experienced having mental illness in their family and said how it touched them. And that has been very, very rewarding.
Excellent, excellent. And I think that is an excellent point to segue on over to Nia. And of course, afterwards, we'll have a few minutes to allow additional questions or comments directed to both of the authors. But you did speak a lot about audience and the importance of considering your audience. And whether you're publishing primarily or thinking primarily about a local readership or beyond. And you also spoke earlier, Kathy, about the kind of author who writes for the love of it, as opposed to one who pursues writing as a business. And so, indeed, Nia Authors will share the other perspective, because she is one of the leading authors, I can safely say, or the leading Belizean author, as far as I know, doing authorpreneurship. And so now Nia will be sharing with us about her journey in becoming not only a published author, but one who writes and publishes novels for full-time as a business. An authorpreneur is a term that I learned a couple of years ago, and I love it, authorpreneurship. So then, Nia, could you go ahead then and just talk to us first about the distinction between a writer who's pursuing writing as a business and how that is approached differently from the garden variety author who just wants to be published for the prestige or to put out information into the world. Go ahead and talk to us about those distinctions.
Okay. Good. Ms. Kathy, I loved your discussion. I agree with everything you've said about publishing for business. Publishing is all about choices when it comes to making money from it. Choices you make will determine whether or not it's a financial venture or one where it's just for legacy. And I know Ms. Ivor and I were discussing yesterday, in the self-publishing world, when you publish just to get that validation, as Ms. Kathy said, or when you publish, on the, I don't want to say on the side, but it's called vanity publishing, because it is for, that feeling you get that, yes, I've been published with this publishing house, or, I have that one book out there and I can, die empty now because I have that one book. And so that's called vanity publishing in the self-publishing world. When you're self-publishing, on the other hand, it is not craft as much as it is a product. So you are not writing your dream. You are not writing your, that baby that you've always had in your heart. When you're writing it, it is that baby. When you're writing it, it is that dream. But when you're finished, it's no longer your baby. It is no longer your little sweetheart that you will cuddle and hold on a pedestal for the rest of your life. It is a product, and that distinguishing factor when you're thinking about writing as a business. It is a business, and it is one of the hardest businesses to run in the world, because we have to compete with Netflix, we have to compete with Facebook, we have to compete with all the other entertainments that are out there. And it's a question of audience, like Ms. Kathy said, and it's a question of numbers. It's a numbers game. And so one of the reasons why I do not write for Belize, I do not write with Belize as an audience, is because we are a small country. So even our avid readers, I mean, that's only 300,000, 400,000, and then you start niching down. So how many of those people have the means to purchase books, and you go down and down and down and down. And remember, we're talking about this as a career, right? So again, I'm not talking about this as a dream, as vanity publishing, as you want that one book and you want to just make a legacy in Belize as an author. That's different. I'm not talking about that. Whatever choices you make in that area are the right choices, because it's a dream. But if we're talking business, we have to make some higher, less emotions and more business hat. Um, so what I do is I sell on Amazon. I sell exclusively on Amazon. I do not have much paperbacks. I mostly focus on ebooks because ebooks they're like money, right? When you're sleeping and the money is in the bank, you're making money. And it's the same with ebooks. Ebooks never come off the digital shelves. They are always on the shelf. And so you always have sleeping, when you're napping, when you have a product on the shelf that will be flying off the shelf if you're doing something important called marketing. And so one of the problems with self-publishing, and I don't want to call it a problem, but it is a problem in the terms of when you're a writer, and especially when you're growing up, you imagine that all you have to do is sit down and write a Prince Charming and sweep you off your feet, take your little product and just make you a household name. And that is not how it works, as Miss Kathy said. And like I can't believe how similar we are, Miss Kathy. I really agree with everything you said. If you're going into writing expecting to make a profit immediately, that is a very, very unlikely possibility. It is very hard to make a profit immediately. But this is true with all startup business. The writing entrepreneurship is a business. And just like any startup, it will take about 3 to 5 years for your business to get on its feet because it is a business and your book. And so one of the other things that an author who is self-published has to do is market. And if you take nothing else from this little discussion, when you finish your book, because at first you have to finish your book, right? So please finish your book. And then when you finish, take some free online courses. If you learn how to do it, you can do it on a shoestring budget. When I started, I had awful covers. I mean, just pure awful. Like, I actually stole a picture from the internet. You're not supposed to steal pictures on the internet. I did that. I stole a picture from the internet, slapped my name on it, and I put my book on Amazon. And I just, I did not have a properly edited book. I edited my own book, and it's still embarrassing to me to go back to read those reviews and see you called this man Sam one time and then called him Gary the next. Like, why are you changing this man's name? Like, it was just pure I was just a novice, man. I was just an amateur, but it sold. And but that's not the point. The point is that I had no money. I just put it up there, and I saw a little bit of sales. And when I saw those sales, I was like, okay, let me take the little bit of sales. I think I made like $200 from that first month. To be fair, I published 4 books though, because I was a writer. I loved writing from before I was a reader. So I had stories in actual exercise books. I transcribed those, I typed it out, then I put it on Amazon. But I took that first seed money and I went and I invested it in ads. I said, okay, how do I get people to know more about me? I went online, I looked up all the free information that's out there, and I invested in marketing. I looked for the people who were looking for me. So one of the reasons, I think I got lucky in the sense that I started writing in a genre called interracial romance, because that's just what I always loved. And it happened to be a very hungry market. It happened to be a very hungry niche. And so people were already looking for books like mine. And so that momentum also carried me forward into the business. But yeah, so the first thing, if I can be more organized in my thoughts, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But the first thing I would say is finish the book, because you can make one book perfect, but you move beyond that one book perfection. The person who writes 10,000 books will write at a more elite level than someone who writes and perfects one book, because you can only know what you know at that one book stage. There is so much more to learn, and you have to finish that book to learn it. So finish the book. It will never be perfect. Like I said, my first book was awful. I am still ashamed of all the mistakes I made when I wrote that. It was called Taming Mr. Jerkface. It was ridiculous, and people loved it because it does not have to be perfect to be um, to be effective. It doesn't have to be perfect to bring entertainment. Many of the movies that are blockbusters suck. I mean, they just suck. They have no story whatsoever. It's just a huge, and yet people flock to it because the story at its core is not complicated to understand. It's entertaining, it's fun, they can go watch it with their family. And so there are many reasons why a story can be entertaining without being perfect. So finish the book. People need to read the book, and you need to move beyond what you know at book 1 and learn what you can learn at book 2 and book 3 and book 4. The second thing is learn to market. You do not have to spend a lot of money. I did not have any money at all when I started writing. I had nothing. But what I did have was passion. And so I learned everything. I read every single article on self-publishing online. I joined forums. I joined Facebook groups. I wanted to succeed and make money from that. Now, I just want to put a caveat here and to be very clear. I had my parents backing me up, so I had their support. I would not suggest going into writing without some backup plan financially. It is terrifying to look at your Amazon report and see maybe $5 and you have rent worth $500. It is terrifying. Do that. Please, please, please have some other backup so you can relax and focus on writing without the pressure of, okay, I need to pay for my family, my baby needs milk, and I need food in my stomach, and I need shelter. So again, it is a business, and it will take at least 3 to 5 years in order for it to generate enough for a comfortable living. But the news is that a comfortable living is possible even in these, especially in these COVID times. I'm a part of an author group called 20 Books to 50K, and I am just seeing so many income reports that will just blow minds. Like, financially, it is very, very, very possible to be an author. It is hard work. It is taking your your pride almost. Like, okay, I think my book is so awesome, or I think my book sucks. It's taking that, throwing it out the window, looking at it like a product. It is learning to advertise. It is learning to be a business person. Because if you want to make writing a career, you have to be business minded, not just an author. You have to take off your author hat, put on your marketing hat, put on your publishing hat, put on your budgeting hat. Because when it comes to a decision between ads and maybe spending on something more entertaining for yourself, it can be a very hard decision. So it's putting on all those hats. You take off the author one. The author writing the book, I'm sorry to say, is the easiest part. I mean, it's the hardest part, because if you're in that stage and it's like you can't even finish that first book, like, what do you mean it's not the hardest part? Writing is, it's the easy part, and then learning all the other skills required is the hard part. So let me check if I'm sorry, I'm rambling. This is my first time doing this, so
You're doing perfect, Linnea.
okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so the last thing I want to say, and then I'll probably stop here, because I can go really, really deep in there, but I just want to reinforce how important it is to, if you're approaching it as a business. I'm not talking about a dream. If it has been your dream to write a memoir or to write poetry, please do that, because you don't want to leave this earth with that book inside you. So write what you want to write. But if it is a business, and if your dream is to make money, then I advise to look up genres and niches. So in self-publishing, there are certain things that a self-author can thrive in. Like, you just throw a book in there, and because it's a hungry niche, because people are looking for it, they'll find you organically, and you can make money right away. So one of the genres or niches that are doing really, really well right now is something called, it's just basically when one woman
Sorry,
basically has, or
sorry,
oh,
sorry, Nia. Yeah, you
go
froze a
ahead.
little bit on what it's called. You said
Oh,
the niche. You got frozen on that. Repeat, please.
yes, it's called reverse harem. Okay, and it's basically when one woman or one, no, not one man, they don't want, they romance readers don't like one man and many women. So it's when one woman has a happy ending with many men, like 7 of them. So the tagline is, rather than have to choose one, why can't she have them all, and it's not yes, and it might not be, like, I wouldn't write that because I have some personal convictions that prevent me from going in that direction. But if I wanted to make more money, and if that was a romance genre that I could write, I would go there, because that is where the market is hungry. That is where I know that no matter what I write, as long as I stick close to the trope, I can make money in that genre. So I just want to reiterate: number one, please finish the book. There is no product unless you finish the book. You can try to make it perfect, it will never be perfect. You can only know what you know at book one. Book one is all you know, and you will never learn beyond book one if you're rehashing book one over and over. So please finish the book and then write another one. It'll get easier and easier as you go. And then two, remember, it's a business, and you are the owner of that business. You have to market it. If you were a plumber, you would have to find a way to get your name out there. If you were, if you're a Mirab, you have to invest in Facebook ads. You have to invest in some way to get your name out there. So this is a business. You are the owner, and you have to learn to market. It does not have to be expensive. Again, I was broke. I had nothing. All I had was a few half mixed stories. They were done, but they weren't the best they could be. And I put them out there, and I learned that way. So it's definitely possible. It is hard. It takes 3 to 5 years for any business to get off the ground. So please, in your budget, the comfort room to accommodate 3 to 5 years of disappointment, of $0 in the bank, of issues with maybe even payment, because there's another complicated part that I won't discuss here, but if anyone wants to know, you can ask me afterwards. But there's a very complicated part in getting Amazon's payment to Belize. So that's all another conversation, but it is a business, and that's why it's a conversation. And thank God there are many different ways in order for you to be paid by Amazon and when you're self-publishing. But all of that is a concern that comes after: one, you finish the book, and two, find a way to sell it, to promote it. So yeah, that's it. I'm done.
Wonderful, excellent. Questions or comments?
Well, can I make a comment?
Please do.
I have to admit, I've never read you, Nia, but now I've heard you, I'm going to go online and look you up. I'm one of those people that refuses to have anything to do with Facebook, so I don't know. I just dislike all the things that I know about it. But now that I've heard you, you might find that there's some clicks that weren't there before. I'm
Oh
definitely going
yeah.
to go ahead and read you.
Awesome. I hope you enjoy them. Yeah.
So therefore,
Facebook is a necessary evil, though.
can I also piggyback on Kathy's question, just to ask you, what are different ways in which readers can reach you or to connect with you on the internet, etc.?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. So I have a website, niaarters.com. I have Instagram, I have Twitter, I have Facebook. I tried TikTok because the beauty with self-publishing and why I prefer it over traditional publishing is I have control over everything. I have control and I can turn whatever levers I want to turn on and off. So I tried TikTok because TikTok is one of the is like a new player in the game, and we want to use it. TikTok did not work for me, but yeah, everything apart from TikTok, I am there. Everything.
Good. And you do have a newsletter too, right?
Yes, newsletters are very, very important. They're the bread and butter of almost every author's business. But the newsletter is like a chicken and egg situation. So you want the book to sell, and when your book sells, you get the organic subscribers. So yeah, I do have a newsletter. It's very important.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What role the newsletter serves and why it is vital?
No problem. So basically, when you're on it, you have a Facebook group. So you have some people who have Facebook pages with like 10,000 followers, but they don't own those followers. If Facebook wants to, and they have before, they can yank those followers, or they can limit your reach to them, which is why Facebook ads are a necessary evil. It's because Facebook has throttled your organic reach, and so in order to reach all your followers on their platform, you have to pay to boost that post. Owns your followers list. Amazon ads also has a follow button, but they own those subscribers. Even Instagram own your followers, unless you have their emails. Emails are still one of the best ways to market to people. If you have a subscription anywhere, you'll see like Amazon emails you like 5 times or wherever, because it works. So email newsletters for an author is the only list they own. So if Amazon decides tomorrow, or Facebook decides tomorrow, to kick me off their platform, I still have about 4,000 people who want to hear from me. I can directly speak to them. I can send them emails anytime I want, and those people want to follow you. So anytime you have a book to publish, they'll purchase, and you can almost guarantee that you'll have a boost on launch days because of those newsletter subscribers. That's very important.
Very good. Anyone else? Other questions for Nia?
I have a question.
Sure.
All right. I apologize if it breaks. Let me know. Internet connection isn't too good, but I actually had 2 questions.
Can I ask a question first, please? Sorry, Christopher. Can I ask everybody a question? It's a techie question, and if we turn off our cameras, all of us, will that help with the reception, or is it individuals' reception issues? I'm not too familiar with the technology.
Individual.
All
so
right.
I think like if your internet is poor, perhaps you want to take off your camera.
If yours at your end, okay. So if all of us turn off our cameras, that won't make a difference. All right, I thought so, but I was just double checking. Thank you, Tanya. Go ahead, Christopher. Thanks.
All right. On that note, I'm just going to take off my my video here while I ask this question. So I had 2 questions. One, the whole conversation between the 2 of you, Ms. Esquivel and Ms. Arthurs, is it brought to mind this strategy or a way of going about publishing that was present in Japan. And I learned this teaching this novel by Natsume Soseki. And in that society in the 19th century, they had these little literary groups that were headed by an editor. And then this editor had this mentor function, and the younger writers were under that editor. They call it a bundan. And the model that they used seemed to be based on serialization in a newspaper. So you had installments of a novel. And when you, Nia, were describing your process, I wonder if that serialization, okay, it doesn't happen in chapter form in your case, but I noticed that you have a lot of series. How important is that developing a series and several different books for your business model? So I was interested in that. And then the other question, maybe for Ms. Esquivel, was about memory. So I know a lot of memorists, they will write about having a memory, and when they write it down, suddenly the memory is concretized, or it's set in stone, and it's changed. So there's a transformation of that memory. You could have accessed it in different ways, and suddenly when you write it down, it's stuck, and you can't access it any other way than the way that you have now written and transformed it. I wonder if that's something that you encountered or have thought about. Yeah, so those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. So maybe Nia, since yeah, you asked Nia first about the series.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's a business decision and it is a part of my business model. The reason I write in series is because it makes more money. So what happens is that I will advertise heavily book one. I will heavily advertise book one, sometimes making a loss on book one. If I spend $5 to advertise book one, I only make $2.74 on that book if someone purchases. However, if that person, or 50% of the people who buy book one maybe will purchase book two, three, and four, and five, and then each of those books are $2.74. So even though I made a loss on book one, when you factor in read through, which means the amount of people who read on in the series, I actually come out with a very hefty profit. And so that's why series, for me and for most business models, you can survive on standalones, but it's very difficult. And I don't like to take difficult paths. I always say I like to learn my lessons the easy way. So if there is an easy way to capture a reader, I'm going to do that. And so that's why I do series, not for any lofty reasons. It just makes more money. So that's why I do it.
You're an entrepreneur. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, memories. Well, yes, the memories. I don't find that I lose memory by writing it. Sometimes I feel maybe we change the memory slightly. That once we write it, it's maybe not quite the same as it was. And of course, unlike Mia, I don't write to make money. I make money in other ways. I think it's really fascinating to hear someone who's actually making money on it. And I think that comes down to knowing your audience. So that I found fascinating. And of course, the publicity, the marketing, again, that's not something I'm at all strong on. But Mia obviously has it down, and I think we can all learn a lot from that because, yes, you write because you want to write, but you would like to feel that someone reads it.
Yeah.
So I think Mia has really given us a lot to think about.
Absolutely. And it seems that Nia is not only making money, but making a living off of it. Is that how you would characterize the business? It's your primary and sole means of income that sustains you as an adult. Could you elaborate a little bit on that to the extent that you care to? Nia?
Sure. Yes, I do. I do make a living off of writing. It's a blessing actually to get up every morning and to do what I love. And the beautiful thing about any business, but especially these books are in the book business, is that when you have that product on the shelf, Amazon keeps it there forever. So I have a lot of books, and one book might make 1 cent, 1 cent I should say, and another book might it might blow up and be what provides most of my income for that month. It adds up. Each and every book profit adds up, and with every book that I put out, I release a book. I try to release like 2 books a month, a 60,000 words book a month, and every time I put a new release, my backlist, which is the book I have written before, they make a little bit more, and that also adds to the overall profit. So you can make a living with this, a very comfy. I'm aiming for more than comfortable. I'm aiming now for the next level, and the fact that I can I'm aiming for another level of income in writing is so huge to me and such a blessing to me. And I've seen people do it, in other parts of the world, and the internet is really a leveling field. It's a level playing field because of the internet. And so it is possible for me, it is possible for anyone who has the determination, the drive, the ability to market and write a book that people want to read. So yes, it's you can make a living. I'm making a living. I do nothing else. I write from 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning to about 9 o'clock. No, let me say 11 o'clock in the evening, and that's my the 20/80 rule. That's all I do, and that caters to my overall income. And then I do other administrative tasks. I take off the author hat at 11 o'clock, and I can do whatever else I want to do. But I focus mainly on admin tasks, marketing, newsletters, stuff like that.
11 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's wonderful. Other questions? Thoughts? Rashila, go ahead.
Hello, Nia, and hello, everyone again. This might be a silly question, but 88 novels. Wow. I'm curious, can you remember all of their names? Like, if someone were to ask you to list the names, could you?
Characters.
No, I could
Okay.
not.
Okay.
No.
And then another question, the series that you co-authored with your dad, and you write romance. So I'm thinking, wow, writing this with your dad. What was that like for you? Who came up with the idea? Was he like, oh, Nia, let's do this? What was that like?
No, he did not suggest that. So what happened? My dad is a storyteller. He is not a writer in the sense that he will sit down and write, take pen to paper. Actually, he hates reading with every breath. So, but he is a storyteller, and he actually started me on this path because when I was a baby and couldn't even understand a story, he would sit me on his knee and he would sound out letters, and I would be expected to repeat that sound. And so he's kind of the one who started me on this love of reading journey. But what happened was he's over there clapping. What happened was yeah, what happened was that my dad, I helped him write a nonfiction book called The Marriage Key and the Dating Key, and it is intended to bring a unique perspective on marriage and dating. It places the responsibility of the relationship on the male, and he has, his hypothesis and his evidence for that particular theory. But I helped him publish that. And when I helped him publish that, I was like, you know what? It would be fun to incorporate this inside a romance novel because it's so unique, it's so different, and I know that it will either get a lot of love or a lot of hate. And I was prepared for the hate as well. So we sat down, and I did all the romantic scenes, the sensual scenes. He knows nothing about that. I did not ask his advice on that. He does not even know how one of those scenes would look. So I did all of that. But when it comes to the advice or the principles, the themes that we follow, we co-author that way. So he will tell me. We actually act out a conversation between the husband and the counselor, and that's how we write. So that's how it worked. I was the one who proposed it, though.
That's awesome. That's just absolutely awesome. Tanya is smiling. What are you thinking, Tanya? What do you want to ask Nia?
No, I think I'm just really fascinated about everything that was said. But to write with a parent, that's next level, and I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
And then you said your dad was clapping in the corner, and that just, that's nice, that he gets to hear you say and praise him in a sense. And I'm sure that he's very, very proud.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Yes. Any other questions or comments?
Hi everyone. Good morning. I just wanted to ask Nia. So I guess we have a little bit of time. Do you need an American Amazon account to publish your stuff on Amazon? Or is it
Um,
just Belizean?
Yeah, so what happens is that there is no Amazon.bz. So what most people who are international just sign up to an Amazon.com account. It's called KDP, and I think that Miss Kathy said create. I know it as Kindle Publishing, uh, uh, KDP. So Kindle Direct Publishing, yeah. And you just that's what I did about 5 years ago. I just on a whim signed up to the account and published the book. So that it's that easy. The easiest thing I think is the publishing side. There's not much complication. You can be published tomorrow if you have a book and you have a cover. Basically, throw it up tomorrow. It's not hard. That part isn't hard.
Great.
Thank you.
And your covers? Where do you get your covers? Or how? Is your artist local? How does that work? Yeah.
No, no. Again, I will reiterate that I was very broke when I started, so I did not have money or even the means to hire an artist who would do a beautiful illustrated cover or even a amazing Photoshop cover. Like I said, I stole a cover. Oh shoot, this is recorded. I'm sorry. I borrowed a cover from the internet and slapped my name on it. So the first cover artist I worked with was actually in Russia. I used a site called Fiverr, Fiverr, and she did my cover for $5, $5 US, and that was how. And I actually still use her. And I like it because remember it's a business, so you want as much profit as possible, and I could get the most profit with a $5 cover. So I still use a $5 cover every now and again. Sometimes I'll splurge, depending on how I feel. But yeah, I still use her. I use an artist on Fiverr in Russia. Having it outsourced is much cheaper, and so that's what I do.
Awesome. Awesome. We are nearing the 9:30 mark, but I do want to make sure that if anybody has any burning questions to ask Nia, that they do. So anything else?
I don't have a question because there's so much to process right now. But I just really want to thank both of you for attending this meeting. This is so thrilling to hear your experiences, and it's very inspiring. So I really appreciate hearing your insight and experiences.
Oh, thank you.
I think we have to thank Audrey for putting it all together.
Thank you all too. Thank you. Charity, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Miss Kelly, for the invite. Thank you, Nia. Thank you, Miss Kathy. I mean, working on my first book, this is very beneficial for me. And I like the way Nia is so open and transparent with her struggles, So thank you for that, Nia. And what stuck out to me from Miss Kathy was her saying that, a story is not created, but it's rather discovered. So that's just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Nia indicated last night that she is very willing to assist other Belizean writers, including present company, in our own journey in writing and publishing. So could you talk a little bit more about that, Nia? Just to let everybody know that that's, how they can maybe touch base with you.
Sure.
We're not going to work you too hard, but
Oh, don't worry. One of the beautiful things about running my own business is I'm very structured with my time, so I will not allow anything to kind of work me too hard. But what I am very passionate about is to see someone greater than me. I want someone to say, "Oh, I learned from now making more than her. Now I have more books than her." And that's my dream. That's my goal. So you can contact me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Like I said, I have my neararters.com website. I have my email as well. But the website is more. You should probably contact me there because I'll check that one. Yeah, and if you have any questions, especially towards the I can't go into that here because that's very, very, but when that part comes up, I will be happy to do that, or even the craft side, the marketing side, anything. I am here. I will answer questions. I will take calls, not too long. Like I said, I'll probably have to get it in. But yeah, I am willing, open, happy, eager. Any questions you have, I am so ready to take them, and we can learn together as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Kathy, how can when people reach you, how and where, and find your books?
Yeah, I don't have Facebook. I don't have any of those things. Actually, I must admit, I use the technical skills of my daughter to get, like, she's putting everything together for me. I don't know. I know Benji is on Kindle, so you can buy it on Kindle. And I don't really have any. That's it. I'm not public facing, but then I'm not making money. But the Welcome Resource Center in Belize City, which does have a Facebook and does have a website, I can be contacted through them or from the Mental Health Association.
Wonderful.
I'm involved with them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I've learned a lot, Mia. I think I'm too old a dog to learn all those new tricks. But as I say, I'm not here to make money out of it, so I don't have the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not too old, Miss Kathy. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, but do I want to?
Yeah, that's true.
You have to, yeah. All right. So all in all, Nia's books and Kathy's books are all available, and future books will be available for you too, Kathy, on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. So both authors' books can be found on Amazon, and Dad's books as well. Sylvan Authors. His 2 books are available on Amazon. I have bought the first one and have finished reading it, and have read, and I'm in the third Nia Authors novel, and I highly, even if you're not a romance fan, it's just great entertainment, great literature, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, seek her out.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me too.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, both Kathy and Nia. Your presence has been most valuable. Thank you to my CNF class and all of our visitors, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you as well. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.